Hello and welcome back to Voices of the Great War. I am Liz Watson. Today we're going to be reading 3 more letters from the Eckert family. Our first letter is from Aunt Tanya to Odo, and she composed this letter on a postcard. Unfortunately, Aunt Tanya's letter is not dated, so I had to kind of judge by the information that was in the letter where it should fit in the timeline of our letters. So Aunt Tanya's letter to Odo reads, Dear Odo, the family were here yesterday with the first letter received from you. I noticed you gave a different company from that of George, and as I just mailed a letter to you in the morning directed to 42nd Company L, thought if I drop you this card and your company might be close, you likely could get it. Or perhaps George could be on the lookout for it. If you don't get it, it will likely come back to me. Meanwhile, keep in good health and let us hear from you often. I am writing before going to business. We have banking hours now, open 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is owing to the conservation of life. All department stores, also other large buildings and etc. are doing the same. There has been a ban on Sunday automobile riding also. Of course, it didn't affect us. On the contrary, we enjoy our nice peaceful Sundays. Everything seems very quiet. It has gotten to be a bit cold outdoors. Have had fog in the morning all week. With best wishes to you and George. Remain yours as ever, Aunt Tanya. So from Aunt Tanya's letter, we can see that we're starting to see some rationing on the home front, such as for fuel, like the banning of Sunday automobile riding. That rationing, it also started to go to not just fuel, but eventually on to foods and those types of things, like sugar and flour, so that way more supplies would be available for the war effort. So our next letter is actually from Carl, and Carl is overseas at this point already, and Carl wrote this letter to the brothers, George and Odo. Now Carl, he is one of the brothers, so he's writing to his 2 other siblings back home. So Carl's letter, it was dated August 5th, 1918, and it reads, Dear brothers, just read your letter from Camp Lee and glad to hear you both are in the same company, but you can't tell anything about such an organization as you may be split up at any time. Was glad to hear about the selling of the house as that puts Pop on the road to getting clear. If Odo gets to go to a school, tell him for heaven's sake to try to make good, as his brother is a mess sergeant and he has a good chance then of staying in the States. About your work back in camp, cannot say a thing, but suppose you'll be picked as a horseshoer or a stable sergeant a little later. If you were over here, you could see a great many things different than those you have become accustomed to. House is built of slime and mud with manure right in the center of all, and a cafe every half square. They breed everything to the limits over here. Have seen lots of good horses and lots of colts, some cattle and some nice sized sheep. Have been up to the big show. Now the big show is the name that they gave to the front line. And back again, but where we were was quiet. So we'll probably be going again pretty soon. Trust all will go well. What Sherman said about the show was right, only he didn't make it strong enough. If you ever get blue around camp, call up a friend I knew there named Miss May. You can pass some time with the lady, but as near as I know, she is okay and do not do anything to hurt her reputation. I am well and still with the same crowd and hope you are the same. Best of luck to yourself and Odo, your brother, Sergeant Carl Eckert. So we can tell from Carl's letter that he has gone up to the front line, but where he was, he hadn't seen any fighting at that point in time. We can also see that Carl is seeing a very different world than the one he had become accustomed to here back in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a big city with big buildings and paved streets, and now he's gone to a place where we have houses that are made of mud and slime. So he's probably feels very much like he's just stepped into a different world completely, the war even aside. So our next letter is from Odo, back home in the States at Camp Lee, and he wrote this letter to his mother. So this is Odo's letter to his mother, and this letter is dated August 13th, 1918. And Odo's letter to his mother reads, "Dear Mother, I am still in Company L, but expecting to be moved very shortly as I was issued part of my overseas equipment. Aunt Tanya, Martha, and Anita were here on Sunday and also on Monday at dinner time. They were going to leave for Washington, D.C. Monday night. I told them where Walter was, and they said they would go down and see him. George was transferred on Sunday and is now in the 18th Battalion. Have been feeling fine, no reason to be otherwise, with that cake from Aunt Mary, candy from the store girls, summer sausage and tomatoes from home, and Mrs. Cartlick's cookies. Tell Mrs. Cartlick they were very good, and I will recommend her cooking anytime. Was out to hear a lecture last night, and George was there also. All quarantine men were taken last night to hear this lecture. Aunt Tanya gave me her new address in Chelsea, New Jersey. I will write to them. Have been drilling only 3 to 4 hours a day since the quarantine. That is all, so I will close with love. From Odo, Company L, 12th Battalion, Infantry Replacement. P.S. Please send $5 as I don't know where I may be going to or when another payday will ever show up. Did that allotment ever come yet? Should have come by this time." So that was Odo's letter to his mother. So from Odo's letter, we can see that he's probably going to be sent overseas soon because he was given his overseas equipment. We can also see that unfortunately, he and his brother George were separated and are no longer together in the same company, which was, I imagine, probably very hard because I'm sure that it had to have been a great relief and a comfort to be going through this experience together. I do have a picture of Odo that I would like to share with you. So this is a picture of Odo Eckert in his uniform. And remember, he was part of that 42nd Division. Thank you again for listening to our letters from the Eckert family. Next time we'll read a few more and learn a little bit more what happened to the boys, Carl, Odo, and George. Again, thank you for joining us on Voices of the Great War. And this is Liz Watson, and until next time.